Hi, this is Jonathon Wilson from groovewindow.com, and we're learning Funk Groove number 4 in B flat. This is part 2 of 7, where we're learning the intro lick and the opening groove. All right, in the opening section here, we've got some pretty challenging stuff right off the bat. One thing that'll help, you have to use your thumb in your left hand at least, so slide your fingers forward a little bit so that you're not stuck down here. Your hands will be up this way. It'll be easier for you to get those keys down. This first chord is actually an F7 sharp 9 chord. Get the third, the dominant 7th, and the sharp 9, which should be written G sharp, but everybody writes it A flat. You see that voicing in a bunch of different places throughout this piece. Again, playing the dominant 7th in my left hand here. So the other thing to remember is when you play these chords, they're anticipations of a beat or an offbeat. And the tendency is to push those things or to rush them. People will play it. Don't let that happen. Think delay on those things so that you're holding back consciously. Now moving into the next measure, which is this lick. The trick here is first take the lick without the top notes. Okay, that's the crux of what we're playing. Then we just add those top notes with our 5th finger. Okay, and then bring in the left hand for the last 5 notes. Now, this is technically a little bit of a challenge. You always work on these kinds of passages the same way. Play it with both hands very, very slowly. Until you've got it mastered at a speed, and you can break it down into little things. Just take the first half. So learn it slowly, and then as you get more comfortable with it at slower speeds, just speed it up. Comfortable at any speed. Okay, moving into the groove, we'll use those last notes again to tie what we already learned into the next section. The trick here, like it is with most of these funk grooves, is putting the hands together. I often get the question, okay, I can play the right hand and I can play the left hand, but I just can't get them to play at the same time. Well, that's the whole trick to these things. Actually, if you practice them one hand at a time, it's actually going to do you more harm than good. The trick is to practice them hands together always, as much as you can. If you need to play one hand just to kind of understand what the notes are, that's fine. But as soon as possible, get yourself working with both hands together at a very slow speed. So let's try that, just the first half of the first measure of the opening groove. Okay, there it is. Notice it's very much a back and forth thing. I play a note in my left hand, a note in my right, a note in my left, a note in my right. Get the idea? Then slow it way down again and move on to the next section. Just go that far. Then I string it together with the first part that I already learned. Again. One more time. Get the idea? So when we go, that's the part we're going to look at next. It's not actually in the fourth measure of the sheet music, but if you find the opening groove later in the piece, it always happens in that second bar. It's exactly the same technique though. So at the beginning, we started on this E flat. Maybe just memorize that. Notice we're back in the first half of this bar. It's a back and forth thing. Okay, then when we get into the second half, there's sort of three distinct parts. Part one, we play the left hand G, then the right hand E flat chord. Okay, that's part one. The next two notes is I move up to the A flat in the left and right there. That's the third. Ooh, it's actually an A in the left hand. That sounds funny at a slow speed, but those are the notes. So what's actually happening is in the left hand we're walking up chromatically, whereas in the right hand we're doing that lick. Each one by itself is okay and not much of a problem. It's putting them together that's tricky. So work on them like this. First two, second two, third two. Okay? Get the idea? It's a good technique. You can master anything this way. You just sort of take a tiny little chunk, work on it very slowly until it's comfortable, speed it up, and then add it into other tiny little chunks that you've mastered. You can learn the whole piece. Okay, it works for funk, it works for classical, it works for whatever. Okay, let's take the first two measures all together. That's the general idea. Apply those techniques to the rest of this and you can get this whole opening groove. The rest of it doesn't change much for the first 8 bars of this. Remember, you can get all of the backing files, sheet music, and MIDI files over at groovewindow.com. In the next part, we'll be looking at the main melody.